A question that sometimes comes up on sales calls is, so how does this all work? And essentially the prospect sitting there trying to get information from you about your entire process and derailing you from actually going through the process of your sales calls. Now, there's a couple ways to look at this. You may or may not like the answer. The answer I give is kind of an indirect answer because of two things. Number one, when we build a fast track process, that question should never come up because part of the process requires a person to both watch a pre-call video and consume a pre-call resource guide before they get on the call. Now, the video will go over a little bit more about how your program works, a little bit of the investment ranges for good reason, obviously, because we don't want someone sticker shocked when they see that. Also builds a little credibility and authority from you because you're going to talk a little bit about your wins, go into a bit of a brag, talk about some client wins, et cetera, et cetera. And the pre-call resource guide will also provide outbound links to things that they consume should they decide to binge watch and binge consume some of your information. And that could include webinars or videos that explain your program. It could be testimonial pages from other people. It could be unique ideas that are unique to you about how you do what you do. It could be some teaching points, et cetera, et cetera. So when a person then attends the call, there's two things you could do. One is confirm, hey, did you in fact watch the video or the resource guide? And if they say no, you have a couple of choices, but my answer would be, hey, I'm totally sorry to hear that. You knew that part of us getting on the call and qualifying you to see if this is a program that is a good fit for you and if we can work together was for you to be able to do that. And you didn't do that. So I can give you one of two options right now. One, we can decide that this is just not the right program for you because you weren't able to do things that were required of you before the call, or sometimes life gets in the way and whatnot. We're going to have to reschedule this call to a time after you consume that content. So when would be the next time you'd spare an extra 20 minutes to watch that content before we hop on the call, and then give them the option and then see what happens. Because frankly, I get that people are busy and I get people don't want to consume content or whatever. But if you make it a requirement and you set the stage and you build a leader's frame around this, then it's just expected. And if you can't do that, then we can't work together. And I think that's part of the mentality that we need to have when we are setting up these sales calls. Because right now, here's the distinction, that every time you get on a sales call, the person who holds the place of the leader of that call is generally going to get the outcome that they are looking for. And you can either, when it's a one-on-one call, hold one of two positions. You're either going to be a leader or you're going to be a follower. And the follower is someone who is not going to be able to take leadership and direct the conversation of the call. Now, that being said, then it is important that every time you hop on a call, you provide leadership. And the first example we give here, obviously, is, well, did you consume the content that was required of you? Cool. Next, you set the tone of the call and you essentially say, hey, I'm glad we get to talk. Here's how this call is going to go. There's a few questions I have that I need to ask you just to ensure that we're on the same page and we're tracking the right way, and frankly, that you qualify for this program. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program. And then if we feel like there's a good fit to discuss, if you want to get involved with that, then I'll give you a chance to ask some questions and go from there. So like right from the very beginning, we're laying the groundwork for the call and we're dictating on how that call is going to go and what we're going to say. Another thing you can do is, again, how to take a leadership role on the call is to be the one asking the questions, right? And holding that frame. So you're going to be the one asking the questions rather than you're going to be given the opportunity for the other person to ask them questions for you. Now, at some point in the call, there's always going to be a portion where they might have some questions. But again, you want to dictate the flow of the call and lead the flow of the call from the frame. And if you're not doing this, and if this is not true of your business, you may want to consider shaping this, is that you only work with a select group of people. And that's not anybody with a check. And so this is truly an interview process to see if the prospect on the other end is qualified to work with you, right? So almost see it as a job interview, that you're ensuring that they have what it takes to be able to do that. So, when you're asking the question, how do you answer when someone says, so what is this all about? That to me, right from the beginning, I mean, there are some salespeople out there who will tell you the direct answer to that. I don't necessarily have the best direct answer to that. But if someone is asking that question at any point, it means that we haven't done the job pre-call or setting the stage at the beginning of the call of how this call is going to go, right? Another thing that I like to say at the beginning of sales calls is, look, friend, I know that we are, I wouldn't call them friend, I'd call them by their name, but in this example, they're a friend. Look, I know you're not my client yet, but before we start this call, I'm going to ask for permission to treat you like a client. So are you okay if I coach you in some of the elements to help you get a better result? Is that okay? So right from the very beginning, you are asking for their permission to coach them, which again puts you in the position in the frame of a leader, and they are now being the one that is following along. It also then gives you the permission to hold people's feet to the fire, to call them on their crap, right? So like it gets to the point of the call where at the beginning, even if you say something like, and at the end of the call, if we see there's a good fit, I'm going to give you an invitation to move forward. Are you prepared to take that invitation to move forward? And if they say, well, no, I'll need some more details. I'm like, that's fair, but I just want you to know that I'm going to hold you accountable. And if this is a good fit for you and you admit that this is a good fit for you, I'm going to hold you accountable to take that next step with you, kind of thing. So anyways, by asking these types of pre-framing questions, you are establishing the frame of the call as the leader. You are letting the client know what it's going to be. And at this point, when they get on the call, they should already have a general understanding of what your program is and how this works, so that when you get to the Q&A portion of the call, really at that point, you are just asking asking clarifying questions and answer clarifying questions, rather than having to reiterate every single time you hop on the call what exactly this is all about and how does it work. The best type of sales calls are when people jump onto the call already knowing your language, already knowing what you do, already knowing how you do it, so that it's really just a point of clarity. And you can set that up pre-call, and you can also set that up at the beginning of the call to make sure the call goes the way you plan. I hope that makes sense. That's it.